Hi everyone, it's Jerry. I'm on chess.com. I'm going to kibitz a game from the live chess. And here we go. Have 2,000, a little bit over 2,000 players, and it seems to be better for white. Up a material and the bishop pair right here. So this knight right away coming under fire, and something has to be done about that. I could see this pawn potentially being lost. I think the rook might be coming over here to contest this only open file, and then the queen eventually pivoting on a8, hitting both the knight and the pawn. That could be quite difficult to get out of, but instead now we have maybe a loss of a pawn right here. I'm assuming that white or black is going to be following up with this c4 advance. Unfortunately, it could be taken twice because the queen is constrained. There was the opportunity. This queen was overloaded at that point. She wasn't really watching over this pawn. She had to watch over this rook. So time situation, fairly equal. Black has a very uphill battle at this point. I think maybe some way, okay, you could always play, I guess, b3 here. Although, no, the queen's watching over this pawn. b3 would actually just hang c2. Thinking about h4, h5, just to disrupt this coordination with the bishop right here. How do you break down the black structure right here? Okay, so here we go. Looking for maybe a timely h5 move, but now the queen hitting both rook and bishop, and actually I think queen to e5 is now forced, offering a queen exchange and kind of returning the favor, hitting both the queen and rook right here. So something has to be done, or that. I missed that one. That's another one, but now the bishop's getting picked off, so okay, maybe that wasn't the greatest continuation to be running with. h5, by the way, is just leaving that bishop unprotected for a moment, but it's not really winning anything. Because after queen check, the bishop comes back. However, right now, h5, I believe, might be, but actually, no. There are continuations where the queen would be coming to e5 with check and picking off a pawn potentially on f4. I was thinking h5, bishop takes, queen check, bishop block, f5, but then queen e5 wins that pawn back. So black is certainly going to be winning this game, or are they? Okay, so time situation, pretty much dead equal, and black is just being up a piece, right? So just time to simplify at this point. It is one minor piece versus two pawns at this point, and I guess black maybe needs to be a little bit cautious about trading too many pawns. And now there's, I think actually maybe even going for a queen ending right there might have been possible. But okay, now the king is in check. I think okay, this king, I didn't like actually that the king ran to h6 to begin with. Okay, so now we have a more simplified position, and let's see how black's endgame technique is right here. This is a 2-to-1 majority right here, and so can these three pawns create a passed pawn versus these two? That's going to be a pretty long way off. Bishop c2 is directed at just preventing a4 altogether, and black right now not wanting white to get in this g4 advance to kick this king backwards. So this is actually turning into a pretty interesting endgame right here. Both sides with 50 seconds, and now we have, I believe, g4 coming up, and now a passed h-pawn and potentially a b-pawn or a-pawn. In fact, I think I'm liking white all of a sudden. I think white has maybe the best opportunity to win. Take here, and then a4, and then, or even better, wow, look at this. The tides have clearly turned, or the game has clearly turned right here, and now just a4, b5, we're going to have a case of three connected passed pawns. What is white doing? Why is this advance not getting pushed through right here? a4 and b5. Okay, I guess this is another way, but one thing about this is that the bishop becomes actually a little bit more active without even having this pawn on the board. I think it would maybe be a bit better to just keep that guy around, because the bishop would have maybe a more difficult time stopping any white passed pawn on the A or B file. But now the king is responsible for watching over the f pawn, and there's just a ton of pawns that black is having to deal with, and this is just gonna come down to black needing to all of a sudden kick it into high gear and just try and milk the white time at this point. But I really don't see that happening. c4 or I don't know about this. Okay, a4, b5. Seems like there was a much clearer approach to this. This king has to go very fast. And what is that? The king now has to retreat to get c4 in. It's looking like it's either going to be a draw or, well, it's definitely a draw for white, but what are we going to have here? The bishop could maybe, no, can't take. The king has to get closer to the center. I think now you could take. Taking the b, and then once you get to c8, then that would actually be a draw, but they're having to go very fast. Black being down on time and actually going to now be losing 0.1 seconds, not enough to win that one. So I'm going to follow. Hopefully these guys play one more game, and yes, here we go. We've got one more game here. So again, 2012 versus 2066 Smith-Morra Gambit, and now d5. Not really used to seeing that move right there. And now could this transpose into... Wow, look at all these crazy pawn advances. It's really difficult to assess these positions when there's a great change in the pawn structure so early on right there. We had a ton of pawn moves, and this is the move that I was thinking was going to be played earlier. But then when that e5 move came, I was a bit thrown off. But so we have white classically developed with their knights, and this bishop is really well placed. Not really the best blockader typically for a passed pawn, but it serves well at this point. Watching over e5, and there could be potential for just e4 at any moment. In fact, that is going to really turn out to be something that could cause white some problems. However, white, with this lead in development, I believe is having an advantage, hitting both the bishop, getting ready to remove a defender, and right now this is already weak. If push, we could have knight d4 to e6, and that's going to be a beast right here. If that knight could sink itself on e6, and here we go. There's no need, by the way, to go ahead and grab this bishop, I don't think. Well, this is another avenue towards that e6 square. And once it's played, I could even see maybe just sidestepping this check, not even blocking, but okay, the knight's coming back. This pawn could actually be taken at this point. I think that might have been a blunder. I think it would have been better to keep the knight here, and that pawn was immune from capture because of knight c7. There would have been a fork. But now there is no outpost for this knight, so if black could simply complete their development, and I think they're just a couple moves away. Knight f6, and is there anything directly? Okay, bishop takes knight first, or queen check. I'm liking bishop takes knight first, but then that opens up this a3 to f8 diagonal, so that could be running into some issues. Maybe, okay, so that's what we're having. How about queen check is just going to be met with bishop to e6, so can black get their development complete? Okay, they're going with this particular move to try and counteract this bishop to a3 idea, following up with the queen knight coming here, and then they're going to be able to castle. I think maybe throwing in a check, bishop e3, and then backing up to maybe something like c8, or actually no, c6 to watch over this e6 square. And now this is turning out to be pretty rough, or not. Okay, this is a very timely check. Now black could castle, or not again. I'm missing this e6 move several times. So even though this pawn is not around to act as a support point for that knight, who needs a support point when there's no black pieces around to watch over that, and now just falling for a fork at this point? So how can, okay, we could have maybe queen coming out here, or is there something on g7 at this point? Rook to e1 would be threatening queen takes pawn, and now this knight is pinned, so rook takes f is threatened. I believe maybe just rook to b1, maybe induce some weakness, and then maybe come over to an open file. Something like rook b1, rook d1 is coming to mind right here. Something like c5, open up the position even more, or that. A very lashing out type of move, something I didn't even consider. It does subject the white king to maybe some problems along this diagonal. Many more checks maybe against that white king long term, but is there really going to be a way that black can be exploiting that? I believe rook takes pawn, and that's actually game over. Exploiting this pin, and we got multiple pins right here. The queen is going down, and so too is black. So that's it for that game. I'm not going to be following anymore. And as always, I hope you got something out of this video. Take care.